everybody, and welcome back. My name's Laura Scott, and I'm the Managing Director and Partner here at ADAPTOVATE for our Australia and New Zealand business. And today, I've got the pleasure of welcoming you to our new podcast space. Amanda and Katie are behind the scenes, and they've worked hard to set up this permanent space for us in our office so we can come to you more regularly. Today, from our new space, first off, I have Julia Palmer. Welcome, Julia. Julia is a dear friend of mine, an old boss from our Be Consulted days, and a very dear friend. So, Julia, I'm thrilled to have you here and to have this great discussion. So, to introduce Julia, Julia is the CEO and founder of Relatus. She's a globally recognised relational strategist whose career spans Sydney, London, Stockholm, and Singapore. For over more than 20 years, she's built a reputation for helping leaders and organisations develop what she calls sustainable relationship ecosystem, going far beyond the old networking and instead focusing on the deeper capabilities, which I absolutely love, that fuel the collaboration, the performance and the long-term success of teams and people. She's the creator of an award-winning learning solution, the architect of Be Real framework, and the person that's coined the term netships, networking relationships that truly matter. Julia is also a TEDx speaker, a regular media contributor, and the author of multiple books, which I had the privilege of being at your first book.
The
Buzz.
launch.
Absolutely, Buzz, which we'll talk about today. So welcome, Julia. It's a real privilege to finally be able to have this conversation.
Thank you, Laura.
And record it. Okay, so before we dive in, Julia, this year actually marks quite a special milestone for you, 20 years since you've stood up in front of a group to deliver your first workshop. Now, recently you've sent an email to launch a celebration for your 20 years, and within that I've noticed that you've referenced the moment when a woman has raised her hand and asked you a pretty pivotal question for your career. So she's asked you, what are you saying? Can I be myself? And I really want to dig into this for my teams, for our clients. This is something that I think a lot of people need to realise the answer to. So what was this moment and what did it shape for you?
Yeah, on reflection of, having this event coming up, I really wanted to kind of look back, and I vividly remember that day. I remember exactly where she was sitting, halfway down the left side of the room, and it was just before morning tea when she raised her hand. And when she asked the question, so what you're saying is I can be myself, in my mind, I kind of paused, and in my mind I thought, well, who else do you want to be? Which I didn't say, but for me, in helping her that day, and indeed in, the hundreds and thousands of people that we've worked with since, it has constantly come up as a challenge because you've got introverts, you've got extroverts, you've got different personality types. And I think the hardest thing for people is thinking that they have to put on a different persona to connect or to meet or to be in those situations that are a little bit uncomfortable, when that's absolutely not the truth. And so I guess my life's work since then is to help people understand that they can truly be themselves and share with them techniques and strategies and ways that they can do that authentically so that they can form genuine connections. And
that's the biggest thing that I'm excited about for today, because the amount of times that I think about you when I go to networking events of people that pull down on a lanyard and say, what was your name? Yes. And you're like, my name still is Laura. It hasn't changed yet.
Yeah.
But I just want to reflect on, I went to an event the other week and with the Roosters, and Trent Robertson was there, and he was asked, what is it to be a good leader and what's built you as a good leader? And he actually said, steal, don't follow. And everybody in the audience was really jarred by it to start with. And we went, oh, okay, here we go. And he said, steal the good things that you like from leaders and people that you admire. Go and steal, beg, borrow and steal things that you like from them, and then form yourself. Don't follow in people, because you will always be behind them. So take what you've said to this lady, be yourself. and then form what you want. And I quite often tell my leadership team this as well. Who do they want to be as a leader and team for the future?
And it's interesting that you're referencing leaders because, you know, that very first year, back in 2005, one of the other things I was invited to do is to speak to a CEO group, actually down here at the Hyatt in Sydney. And I remember getting that invitation and thinking, what am I going to teach CEOs about networking and connections? And it wasn't until I was in that room and they were sat all around the boardroom that I realised how hard this is for most people. So interestingly, soft, social, emotional intelligence, these are all learnt skills. We're born with social capital, but if it's not practiced, it's really hard for people to actually use it in their daily life. So yeah, it's something that I've devoted my career to.
Brilliant. And so I want to go there. So you have you have so much global experience, and in the last 20 years and before that as well. What was it about it from a global perspective that made you realise that this was going to be your life's work?
You know, I've not actually ever been asked that question. So
that's cool.
I had to really dig deep to think about how to answer that for you, because honestly, I didn't know that I was going to end up doing this. And I think this is, well, you know, most founders and entrepreneurs will tell you that. And so after I lived and worked in those cities, and I went to thousands of conferences, and I watched people in networking environments, and I watched buyers and sellers, you know, not know how to come together, and I saw the awkwardness. I was actually I'd come back home and I was working at the State Chamber of Commerce, running partnerships, and this, we had a collaboration, and we had these American speakers coming out, and it was a marketing conference that we were helping them to host. So I remember being there, and it struck me that I didn't want to work for anyone anymore, and I wanted to do something different. And one of the speakers was really inspirational, and I actually stayed up all night that night, and I started to kind of think about ideas. And this was 2 years before I launched the business. And then the next morning, I was so excited. I found that speaker. He's from the US, as I said. And I went up and I said, right, I want to do something different with my life. And he agreed to mentor me. And what ended up happening was he got me to ask my network, what is Julia best at and what is Julia good at? And I wasn't allowed to give any context, and I just sent those two questions to a variety of people, aunts, uncles, cousins, peers, just work people, clients, it doesn't matter. So I remember sending it out to, I think, 30 or 40 people. And then I had to send him the results because I didn't even understand what he was asking me to do. And he came back and he said, you need to teach people how to network. So I never would have come up with that myself, ever. I didn't even know teaching networking was a thing. And back then, to be fair, it wasn't. Back then, companies were focused on negotiation skills, sales skills, presentation skills. They were kind of the most popular trainings you would put people on. So this was really new. And certainly talking about my background, bringing the business experience, bringing those real kind of situations where I could answer questions and marry my kind of the sociology side of my watching everything happen, the psychology side, and, you know, put together the I guess, frameworks, the starting frameworks of what I thought was what people needed to develop. That was a huge process for me in that very first year. So, yeah, it all comes back down to this one inspirational person.
Wow, cool. That's awesome. So at Relatus, you design sustainable relationship ecosystems, not just networking. Can you talk to us about what that means in practice?
Yes. So we've come very far in the last 2 decades. So I've seen, at a high level, the GFC, all this technology, a pandemic, all the globalization. So what this fundamentally comes down to is that as humans, we actually haven't changed that much. Our brains are still the same. Our need to connect and to be together is probably more relevant than ever, and we saw that through the pandemic, okay? So the reason that I've kind of taken that 20 years of work and now I'm talking about these sustainable ecosystems is because anyway, individual networks weren't working for people because they weren't actually leveraging them. So that work that I started out doing on teaching people how to actually start a conversation, leave a conversation, align that, to some relationships that support their career. That early work that we've been doing over the years meant that, yes, people were developing networks, but it's not two-way. So the only way for this to work in the long term for everybody is that my network and your network connect. Mm-hmm. And the ripple effect of those relationships is where the power lies. So that's now what we're helping a lot of organisations from an internal perspective do, and obviously a lot of individuals in order to, you could be in sales, you could be an engineer. It doesn't, technical people, BD people, it doesn't matter who it is. At the end of the day, the relationships you form are what's going to make a difference to how successful your career is.
Couldn't agree more. And I mean, you walked in here, we're in a share space here. Well, we've created our own share space with like-minded companies and partners, and you said this isn't a we work or a we, space, for want of a better word. This is actually where companies, like-minded companies, are coming and sharing networks, working together. We go to pitches together, and it's beautiful. It works really well, and we have a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah. This is something we have to teach all the way down to the kids coming through. We cannot do this alone. Okay, so, and my grandfather actually had a quote, and it's in Czech, so I'll just say it in English. One hand needs the other to wash. And the point is that you can't just wash this hand. We need each other, and I think people have lost that over time. We're so competitive, and everyone's trying to do everything themselves, and we're scared to ask for help, and we're scared to make mistakes. We need to get back to the fact that we cannot do this alone. So if you can partner with people who are better at that thing than you, then why not do it together? Collaboration is the way forward.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We tell our team this. This is why, so we're back in the office and have a great culture here, because we don't want to do it alone.
Yeah. Yes. And speaking of back in the office, water cooler chat.
Yes.
I mean, this is what every company is missing. You don't get this at home. You cannot sit in your home environment and expect to absorb anything. We don't get information from the formal memo. When I started work, there were formal memos which told us things. Nowadays, it's all word of mouth. It's all through your networks. It's all through, kitchen talk. And people just aren't tuning into that, and they're not tapping into all of those informal networking opportunities that help inspire us.
Yeah, and I'm going to go there. Let's go to networking, because this is fun for our listeners to hear you talk about this. So in your experience, where do organisations confuse networking activity for true relationship capability, and what is the human cost of that confusion for leaders and teams?
Okay, so, and this is where we really get the success from our work, because my background is business. I did a Bachelor of Business. I worked for companies. I ran departments. I ran an office. So I understand ROI. Now, what I can tell you is companies spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on memberships, associations, and all those groups that they belong to. Then they spend another couple of $100,000 on sponsorships or hospitality and entertaining clients. And then there's all the internal networking and all the kind of team development stuff. So all of that cost is not actually matched to activity. So I know this because I talk to CFOs and I talk to business leaders who don't actually understand that you need to help people in those environments to behave in a certain way so that you're getting the outcome you're looking for by doing all those initiatives. So in the very early days, one of the first calls I used to get, and I remember this one vividly, was from a team leader. He was a GM, and he said, "Julia, we sponsored this event last night, and I was running late, and my whole team was there, and when I arrived, they were all stood in the corner talking to each other."
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. So again, when I talk about strategy, it's because most people are very accidental in their approach, and they admit this. We've done the diagnostics on this. 84% of people's networks are accidental. So not many people are thinking strategically about, who do I need to meet? What conversation do I need to have? And by the way, this isn't about meeting new people. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have existing networks that they're not tapping into, relationships that have gone dormant or weak Because, again, the pandemic is a really good example. Close ties got closer, weak ties got weaker. So now, many years out of that, people aren't going back in and reigniting those relationships, So we need to think about how to do these things, and that's exactly what we do. Our stuff's really practical, and it puts a plan into place.
Yep. So like good consultants, there's a framework. So the Be Real framework, can you talk us through that?
Yes. So Be Real, I'm so proud of because, as I said, this year is 20 years and we've taken everything. I'm working with a new mentor and a consultant of my own who's helped me really kind of solidify all of our messaging and our IP. And BEE stands for build, engage, elevate. And then Real is the second part to that. So review, enrich, activate, which I want to come back to in a second, and leverage. So because I said before, lots of people have weak ties and they don't activate, there's a whole strategy there or a process there around what you do. It's no point just having contacts. Most people have just a database of contacts. What are you doing with it? You've got to take contacts, create connections, create capital. So that's how we help people.
Love it. Brilliant. So you have coined the term netships, networking relationships that truly matter. Can you share a story that in your life that's really shaped your journey?
Yeah, so netships came about because networking has such a dirty connotation. And most people are very transactional with their approach, very one way. So I really wanted to help people be more relational, hence the networking relationships part of it. I would not be here today if it wasn't for the people in my network. If I go back early on to my father being my greatest mentor and influence for what I do, and helping me, when I was making those decisions to go abroad in my early 20s, really pushing me out the door and saying, yes, go do this. The promotion that I got to Singapore from Stockholm never would have happened if someone else didn't put me forward. There was no way I put myself down for a GM role running a business in Asia. So, and you can imagine culturally, Stockholm, Sweden, is very different to Singapore.
Absolutely.
So it's the people that back you and the people that see things that you don't see that help shape where you end up. So everything that's happened to me to this day is thanks to the beautiful people that have supported me and encouraged me and surrounded me to be here.
Brilliant. There's nothing more powerful, is there?
Nope.
So Relatus has 3 flagship programs that I'd love you to talk about. So we've got relationship networking, selling, and relational leader. So who are they designed for and what are the outcomes that they can create?
So the relationship networking one is the one we've won several awards for. So for learning transfer and best capability development program, because the way that we teach, look, when I launched Relatus, I need to step back a second. In 2018, I kind of got sick of doing one-hit wonder work. And again, I remember the moment I was in a law firm in Melbourne and they were doing grad training and they'd earmarked a 2-hour time slot for networking. And I literally waited outside the door, came in, did my 2 hours. Everyone had all these questions. I was ushered out the door at the end of the 2 hours. And that was it. And I never saw those people again. So I made the decision at that point not to teach like that anymore. So these programs that we've put together, they have micro-learning elements. They have embedding opportunities. They have simulations. So because you just don't retain the information unless you're putting it into practice. And I talked about alignment earlier. It's not like people don't know most of what I'm teaching them. It's just that they're not doing it. So I'm helping them to do it in a way that's more effective. That's for starters. But I'm also helping them change behavior, create new rhythms, change habits to allow this to happen. So, relationship networking is that one. The sales one is pretty much taking transactional sales, which doesn't work. In fact, selling doesn't work, and helping people to buy. And finally, relational leader is probably my favorite program because you usually get the leadership job based on your human capital, which is your individual competencies, right? Education, skills, abilities. Your social capital, your relational competencies, that's what makes you a good leader. And unfortunately, not everyone has both. And so where we help leaders is to develop their emotional intelligence, their relational intelligence, to align it to their human capital, to really be better coaches, be better leaders.
What do you think it is about some people where they feel that they can't be real when they go to these events? Is there clear blockers? I mean, there is, but...
Just most people have told themselves they don't like it. Whether it's walking up to one person and talking to them or walking into a room that's got hundreds of people, most people do not feel comfortable in that situation and therefore avoid it. Okay. So I actually had a call from a CEO last week who runs a very successful business and admitted that, and they run they put events together and he said, "Can you please help me network?" And I was really surprised that, again, that CEO level really wants to feel more confident and comfortable. So yeah, I think it's everyone that has that. I don't know whether it's the imposter syndrome or just whether they don't really want to do it.
So you talk about a lot of simulation and customization for each of the clients. When we worked together, we used to do some really cool customization. Can you tell the story of when we were going into and when we would work with clients, go to their events with them?
Yes. In fact, I'm going to an event with a client next week. Again, they're doing a trade show and they don't necessarily know how to leverage it that well. So again, there's a lot of activity out there, but not much coming back. So what we do, either we're a fly on the wall. So there's sometimes that we've been asked to go in and just observe before we train people, or sometimes where they're very actively in a role to coach, in situ. But yeah, the customization part, a lot of our programs have key stakeholder videos where, the CEO, the CFO, they're actually giving advice and that's integrated into the micro-learning so that, again, it's tailored to that organisation, it's tailored to people that they look up to help them and encourage them to put what we're learning into practice. So what I've found is that the more leadership backs this and helps people to do it, the more it's going to stick. So, at the end of a long day, and you don't really want to be going to something for the next 2 hours and talking to people that you don't know. So really, you've got to have that scenario where it fits into part of what you're doing. It's so relevant and so customized that you understand that by doing this, this is the outcome that I'm going to get. And then, as I said, everyone wins because we don't have hierarchies anymore, right? It's not like that's how we get our information like we talked about earlier. Now it's networks of teams and networks of people that work together. So we actually all individually have to do this.
Yep.
You'll fall behind if you don't.
I completely agree. I was just having a conversation with somebody that just popped in before and he said he's never got a sale through, just putting a SEO out or something like that. It's all relationships that he has grown his business through.
What the hardest thing is now, though, is because we've come through an era where we're used to different kind of contact methods, right? So I'm a big fan of technology, but unfortunately people don't know how to connect with people. So I see technology as an enabler, but most people can't even pick up the phone. So we do have an issue here with how people, so it's great that you said face-to-face then, because there's a whole nother element to face-to-face where you can talk about the weekend, you can talk about your dog, you can talk about something. Whereas the transactional side of where we've kind of ended up is just people are straight down to business. So that's what we've lost. We've lost that human touch that you just described.
Yeah. So you referenced before that we forget about 80% of what we learn from the past 30 days. How do you design for long-term retention and real behavioural change?
So our programs can go anywhere from 2 months to 6 months, and then with additional coaching can go forever. So for us, it's about, as I said, embedding, but also creating that rhythm that enables the habits to form. So you do need to practice, come back and debrief, practice, come back and debrief. So our micro-learning, it includes, watching a video, reading an article, thinking about and reflecting on how you're going to apply that. So it's not just our thinking, we're referencing Harvard Business Review and things that they can really kind of understand. Like Harvard Business Review backed this, and I've been saying it for years, said, "How are you?" are the 3 most useless words you can ask someone. Now, how true is that, right? So again, it's about, okay, most people ask that. Why do we ask that? What can we ask differently? What outcome do we want? So I'd be urging everyone to say, hang on a minute, I don't want to be asking a weird question that just gets a fine or a good. I want to go deeper than that. How do I do that? And that's really what we're here to do, is we're here to help kind of make people think differently through a program that allows them to come back and ask us lots of questions and dig deeper.
So how would you ask that?
Well, just avoid how are you? And then the second most useless question is, what do you do? That's very judgmenty. So again, it's, what brings you here? Or have you been to one of these events before, if it's a networking scenario? Or if it's in the office, just think about something else. How are you is just it's a closed off question.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You learn nothing.
Yes, agree. So I want to quick fire some questions at you.
Okay.
For the listeners. What is the most overrated bit of networking advice, apart from don't say how are you, that you've ever been given or given?
I haven't given it. Everyone's saying it's all about who you know. I know that sounds like it should be right, but it's not, because who you know is one way. Most people have massive networks. They don't know how to leverage them, or big, groups of people. So for us, it's about who knows you, who's promoting you. That referral, that recommendation, that's where the ripple effect is. That's where the power is, not in who you know.
And so back to your earlier point of actually have a strategy behind the way that you network.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Stop
And
being
the way
so
and your
accidental.
and your personal brand.
Yes.
Yes.
All tied. Yeah.
Yep. What's one small daily habit that you swear by?
So I'm known for the pollination effect. So basically that's, when a bee goes to get what it needs to get to bring back and create the beautiful honey, it doesn't go to one flower and take everything. So if you think about it, you go to a variety, you go to all the beautiful flowers, and you take tiny, tiny bits. So the pollination effect in practice is one micro moment to someone in your network daily, whether it's a phone call, a check-in, gratitude, sending something, whatever it might be. It's a touch point that you can do every single day to someone different, just to be visible.
And that is certainly something that I have got from you from when I was young. How can you delight somebody in their day when they weren't expecting it? When you're thinking about somebody, how can you actually activate that?
A lot of people think it, but they don't do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the amount of people that go, I thought about you the other day, but didn't do anything
something
about it. Go delight people.
Yeah.
What's one book that you swear by at the moment?
Oh, see, I'm one of those people that always has like a pile of books going, and I probably never finish them all. Like I pick and choose bits, but at the moment, I'm really obsessed by this book called The Art of Gathering, because it kind of takes me back to, I was working with one of my mentors on a dinner series over a decade ago, and this Art of Gathering, she really goes into why do we gather? What's important? How does the human connection work? And so it really reinforces a lot of the messaging. And going back to your former point, I actually took a screenshot of it and sent it to that mentor and said, hey, I'm reading this book. I think you'd really love it. So again, you can, anytime you're doing something, you can use it as a touch point anyway.
Love it. And a life lesson you wish every manager had in their toolkit?
I just think if it's managers and they've got people, I think every manager needs to think about how they come across and what's going on for other people. I think that awareness, that self-awareness and awareness of others really needs work out there. I think we're just moving too fast. Everyone's busy. Everyone's just getting on with it. Everyone's trying to kind of do the do, but we're not stopping and thinking about like all the cogs and how it all fits together. And I do think managers particularly have a responsibility for people and checking in, and that awareness is probably step one.
Yep, I agree. And finally, what's the best place for people to connect with you, learn more about you, take you to coffee, have coffee with you?
So I do love LinkedIn, and I think everyone should be on LinkedIn because business cards are redundant and email addresses are redundant. So LinkedIn is a great professional tool. So I'm on there, Julia Palmer. Relatus also has a company page, so we share tips and resources and links to articles and things like that. But otherwise, get in touch.
Brilliant. And your Buzz Bulletin, I will give it a plug as well. I read it and send it to my team.
My newsletter, yes. It's
not your newsletter?
Exactly monthly. It's kind of when I have an idea for an article. But yes,
love it.
If you subscribe at relatus.com.au, I believe, you will get that irregularly.
Love it. Brilliant. Look, thank you, Jules. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I always enjoy our chats. We could go on for days, yes. But we are time capped. So thank you very much for joining me today in our beautiful new studio. And thank you everybody for joining us here today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.